Okay, well, as weary as I am of the fake moon landing lunatics, I thought I'd just have a. There's a couple more pictures that I think are worth having a look at. Pardon me, just had my breakfast. Now, there's this one, and there's the one with the flag in the lunar module, reflection in the lunar module window. I'll have a look at that one a bit later on. I came across this one first. Now, this is again Scott Henderson, and he's saying he's given the Apollo image library reference number there, AS17, so it's from Apollo 17. It's image 134-20383. This flag has been exposed to water and is very wet indeed. Of course, Mr. Henderson knows that because he saw the flag being immersed in water and he actually felt it before it was taken out onto the lunar surface just to make sure it was sopping wet. On close examination, it is possible to detect that the fabric is drying back from the edges, particularly in the blue area. Okay, let's have a look at these arrows here. Yeah, okay. So what he's saying here is that the flag is wet, it's drying, and because this area here is darker, it's drying back from the edges. Now, okay, so let's look at this from the opposite point of view. You know, this is all real, so this is not going to be a wet flag drying back from the edges. Well, the first thing that springs to mind is there are areas of light and dark on the flag. These could be. Oh, there is a bit of shadow here. Okay, that might not be. I mean, the flag is not flat, of course, so these just could be some sort of shadows. But if you think about it, if you've got a flag and you've got these embroidered stars on it, these aren't printed on, these stars, these are embroidered on. So if this was actually a wet flag, now I'm sure this is a shadow, but if this was a wet flag, I would expect it to dry back, to use his term, or to dry rather, with dark areas sort of around the stars, you know, as the thinner material dries out. So this band would not extend through the whole line of stars. If you go to that one there, you can't really see it terribly clearly in this image, but if you look at if you actually go to the NASA image library and look at that image and just blow it up and have a look at it, you can see there's a similar thing here. There's a similar thing there on the other row of stars there. But I would expect if this was a wet flag, drying out wet flag, that this band would not be continuous. This band would not be continuous. Because of the embroidered stars would contain more material to hold the water, the stars would be the last things to dry out, especially as they're white. So, you know, energy is going to be reflected off of these a lot more than it is actually on the darker blue, which is going to absorb more sunlight energy and dry out quicker. So I would expect that to have a sort of dark patch around the actual individual stars as the flag dries, rather than have a continuous band through the flag. Now, if I were a really serious investigator, I would write to Anin, who made these flags. This is the Apollo 17 flag, by the way. This is not the same as the others. This is a slightly larger flag, and this flag is not a new flag. This flag was actually hanging on the wall in the Apollo Control Center for the duration of the Apollo missions, and maybe the Apollo project as a whole. So this is not a new flag. It's been hanging on the wall. They took it up there as a symbolic thing. The flag that's been hanging in the Apollo Control Center, they took it off the wall and they flew it to the moon and they put it on the moon. So this is not a new flag. But I could write to Anin and say, now this is a nylon flag. When you embroider the stars onto them, do you actually put? Is this blue area of the flag a sandwich? And in between the two blue layers, is there a sort of band of sort of reinforcing material so that you can actually, embroider the stars on and they stay sort of nice and stiff. If you get an embroidered shirt and it will have something embroidered on it, on the inside there'll often be a band of material, so the embroidered logo or writing, whatever it is, will all look good. It doesn't it sort of reinforces it. And the other thing I could do is, these flags are not very expensive, and inns still make flags. I could order one, and I could get it sopping wet. This is Australia, it's the summertime, it will dry very quickly. So I could just get a flag, make it sopping wet, put it outside and film it drying. I might do that, just to see if it does dry back in bands. I'd be very surprised if that's the case. Okay, there is another thing to consider here as well. If you do any camping and you have stuff that's stitched together and it gets wet, and you want to dry it out. When you're drying it out, you hang it up to dry. You look at it and you're checking on it to see how dry it is. It's a while since I've done anything like that, but from memory, wherever there's extra material, like at the edges here, where the material is all doubled up, you've got twice the material to hold the water. So if this was in fact a flag that was drying out, you would expect this to be the other way around. So the dark band would be along the edge of the seam there. Because this would hold a lot more moisture, would hold a lot more water, and so if this was in fact a drying out flag, this area here, down here, would dry out quicker than this area here, along this seam where there's the extra material. So that's. That, I think, is definitely not a flag that's drying out. That is not a wet flag that's drying out. I just don't think that's I don't think that's a very good fit at all. Okay, let's just have a look at this flag hanging up in the Apollo Control Centre. Okay, so here is an actual image. Here is an actual image of that flag hanging in the Apollo Control Centre. Okay, and we can see here there's Tom Hanks. This image was taken during the Apollo 13 mission. I'll just scroll down and get you the information on when the image was taken, and we can see the back of Flight Controller Krantz, Eugene Krantz's head there. Now, of course, this is all fake. All these people here are actors. It's not really Krantz, the ex-Korean fighter pilot. All this stuff here is like a Star Trek set. It's all plywood and light bulbs. This is all just made up to fool people like or to try and fool people like Mr. Henderson. These are all sheets of hundreds of sheets of blank. I'm leaning over the camera. It's a bit of an awkward angle. All sheets of blank paper that have been stuffed into folders just to make it all look. Oh, look, there's a 1975 modem. I really don't know why I give the time of day to these moon hoax morons, but yeah, there we go. Anyway, so there's the flag, and it's hanging in the Apollo Control Centre. It's been hanging in there for the duration of the Apollo project. So it's under artificial light. You can see the way the flag is illuminated here. It could be something as simple as the way the flag acts under artificial light. The materials in the flag degrade under artificial light. Over time. Let's just see what they have to say about this image. I'll find something somewhere that says that was the flag that was taken off the wall, and flown to the moon. I think it's on the NASA site somewhere. Okay, so there we are. This photograph of the mission operations control room. Again, I'm reading this through the camera viewfinder. I can't look past the camera at the computer. In the Mission Control Center at the Manned Spacecraft Center, now Johnson Space Center, Houston, was taken on April the 13th, 1970. During the fourth television transmission from the Apollo 13 mission, Eugene F. Krantz, foreground back to camera, one of 4 Apollo 13 flight directors. Sorry, Mr. Krantz, if you're still alive. Flight director, he's not a flight controller. Views the large screen. At the front, as astronaut Fred W. Hayes Jr., lunar module pilot, is seen on the screen. So it's not Tom Hanks after all. That would have been, what was the name of that guy? Oh, I can't remember his name now. The actor that actually played Fred Hayes. He's quite a famous guy. So that's not one of the actors. There must be another actor, of course. This is all a setup. But anyway, there is the flag, and they are the illumination conditions. Because remember, this control room is a 24-hour operation, when the missions are on at least, and it's been subjected to this artificial light for some time. Don't know if the Apollo Control Center might have windows to the outside world. Maybe they don't have the lights on, or maybe the whole thing is windowless and they have artificial light all the time. Some of these sort of control centers are like that. They don't have windows. They don't want people looking out windows. They want people to keep looking at their screens. Okay, so let's just have a quick look too at. There was another image that I thought was sort of interesting. Yeah. No. Go away. We'll get rid of that one. And go to this one. Okay, so this has got nothing whatsoever to do with NASA. This is just American flags, flag materials. There we go, and we can see there's different areas of light and dark on it. Different areas of light and dark. Different areas of light. Different areas of light and dark. And even this flag appears to have. Remember, this is nothing whatsoever to do with NASA. This flag appears to have bands, light and dark bands on it. Light and dark bands. Now I don't know if this is as I say, I don't know if this is a sandwich material. I would have expected the stars, if this is a sandwich material and this is reinforcing stuff, I'd have expected the stars all to be on the dark bands, like they are in the Apollo picture. But we can see that there are bands appearing on this flag, so it's something to do with the way the flags are made. And again, just to remind you, this is nothing whatsoever to do with Apollo. This site is just a flag site. Okay, let's go on to the next clip and I'll show you what I mean about reinforcing the embroidery. Okay, so here is I'll just show you an example of what I meant by having maybe a reinforcing strip inside the sandwich layers of the flag. If the blue section of the flag was actually a sandwich, and there was a strip in between the two sandwich layers, just to reinforce where they'd embroidered the stars. I mean, that might make the part of the flag that had the strip in it look a little bit darker than the other bits of the flag. There's a lot of sunlight on the moon. Sunlight was trying to shine through the flag. It's going to be darker where the strips are. Okay, so here is an embroidered shirt. Now, before you all start googling this, I never worked for this outfit. I worked for one of the companies that was invited to send people along for their corporate golf day, and they gave us all shirts and golf balls and stubby holders and all that sort of thing. So if we look at this, because it was a corporate golf day, these things tend to be quite good quality. The embroidery is quite good. I don't know anything about golf, of course, but well, of course, I mean, you wouldn't know that, but I'm not a golfer. They only invite me along when they need some new bunkers. The golf balls they gave us were probably quite good quality as well. But anyway, I digress. I got a nice good quality mug as well, you know, of course, with this outfit emblazoned all over it. So next time we do a project, we think of these guys. It's good psychological stuff, that, isn't it, really? Because you leave that mug's in your office, it's on your desk, you know, and you think, oh yeah, let's give these guys a call. They probably get quite good value out of their mugs. All right, so anyway, let's just have a look at the back of it, which is the point of this. I'll get to the point eventually. Okay, as it focused. Right, there we go. So you can see there is a reinforcing strip there. It reinforces the embroidery. And if there were strips like this in between the two layers, the two blue layers of the flag, so the blue section of the flag, if it was two layers, if it was a sandwich type arrangement and it had these reinforcing strips in between the two layers, just to reinforce the embroidery for the stars, that might account for those strips looking a little bit darker. Remember, it wasn't a new flag, it had been hanging on the wall for a while. There's plenty of sunlight on the moon if the sunlight was trying to shine through the flag. Actually, I might have said that before. It might, you know, that you might get more sunlight through the flag around the strips, making the area with the strips inside look darker. It's just a few thoughts here, because I tend to believe that this is all real, that it all happened. So, you know, I'm trying to think how you might get that appearance on the flag, and this is just one of the ways I think you might get that appearance. There's a reinforcing strip between two sandwich layers of blue on the flag that embroider the stars on. It's not a new flag, it's been subjected to artificial light for quite some time. They put it on the moon. I don't know how thick that stuff is. Maybe the sunlight's trying to shine through the flag, and of course, you know, where the strips are, it's going to appear a little bit darker. All right, well, that's just my thoughts. That's just my thoughts on why those dark strips may appear in that image. Okay, next clip. Okay, so just to finish up, I'm reading this again through the camera viewfinder. The Apollo 17 moon landing occurred on December the 11th, 1972. The lunar module crew spent 75 hours on the lunar surface, deploying a US flag early in EVA-1. This particular flag had flown in the Mission Operations Control Room, the MOCR in Houston, during Apollo, and was noticeably larger than the flags deployed on the previous missions. That's a NASA Gov site. Flown's probably not quite the right word there. We saw in the earlier image it was sort of hung up above the double doors in the Mission Control Center. So during Apollo, well, was that when did Apollo start? They built that control room at the beginning of the Apollo project, did they? I mean, that could have been hanging there for years. That flag hanging there in artificial light, because many control rooms don't have windows. You know, they you get sunlight on screens, and you can't see indicators and all this sort of stuff. So. A lot of control rooms are windowless. It's just artificial light, and of course it would have been a 24-hour operation, certainly while the missions were flying. So that's just to finish up there. I don't recall anyone ever mentioning before that this particular flag wasn't a new flag, that it was slightly larger than the previous flags, and that the flag had been suspended or hung up in the in the Mission Control Centre. I'd say during Apollo. I mean, if I actually Googled the duration of the Apollo project, when did it start? Did it start back in the early '60s, when Kennedy said they're going to do it and get there, by the end of the decade? It took them a little bit to get up and running and build all this stuff. I mean, it could have been hanging up there for a few years, maybe even 5 years. Under artificial light conditions, so I don't recall anyone ever mentioning that. But I thought I'd just mention that, because that is, of course, another consideration. Right, is there anything else on the flag? I don't know. I mean, if anyone jumps up and down and gets really excited about it, I might put my hand in my pocket and buy one of these flags, get it sopping wet, and then just film it drying, just for a bit of fun. I might do that anyway. I'll keep you posted. All right, well, as always, thanks for watching. Maybe I'll catch you again.